So again, this is Dr. Rosales. It's been a while na gumawa ulit ako ng presentation or discussion. So ngayon naman, ang i-discuss ko sa inyo is kung paano i-compute using the frequency count and percentage method ang lahat ng mga na survey ninyo, whether gamit nyo ang Google platforms or yung iba-ibang klase ng online survey forms and yung personal na pagbibigay nyo ng mga survey sa inyong mga respondents. So, here, ituturo ko sa inyo unang-una muna is the frequency count and percentage method. Dahil, usually, sa mga researches, ito ang kanilang ginagamit aside from yung average weighted mean na i-discuss ko rin. Gagawa rin ako ng video about that. And the different inferential statistical tests like ANOVA, chi-square, and the others na pwedeng gamitin using para sa college researches ninyo. Okay, so simple lang siya. So dito, una, we will be focusing first on the frequency count and percentage method. So here, i-discuss ko muna sa inyo kung paano siya ginagamit using yung mga scores naman sa grades, and bago tayo pumunta doon sa survey form and how to present it in a tabular form sa research ninyo, which is sa ibang researches, chapter 4, the presentation and analysis of the data, and yung iba naman is chapter 3, so depende yun sa APA format and yung MLA format. Okay? Okay, next. So here, bakit ko dinidiscuss ang presentation of data? It's because nga, those formulas, the frequency count, the average weighted mean, and ANOVA, t-test, chi-square, etc., pinipresent yun sa chapter 4 or chapter 3 ng researches ninyo. So, a presentation of data is an organization of data into tables, graphs, or charts so that the logical and statistical conclusion can be derived from the collected measurement. So, kung maalala nyo yung IPO format natin, which is the pinaka-plan, buong plan or proseso ng study ninyo, nakalagay doon sa gitna ninyo or the IPO, the P, process, which is ginamitan nyo ng mga different statistical tools, surveys, etc., and presentation ng mga data na nagalap ninyo. So, bakit natin pinipresent ang data? Para mas ma-express nating mabuti yung degree of the problem, and at the same time, yung mga ranking and percentages kung saan may mas malaking result and may mas mababang result. Kaya mayroon tayong presentation of data. Dito naman, gagawa rin ako ng video about that, kung paano naman i-interpret yung mga nakuha nating data na ginawa natin dito in a tabular form. Kasi dito part, i-discuss ko lang it's about the tabular form. Hindi pa siya about doon sa kung paano i-discuss yung laman ng tabular form na nakalap ninyo. Okay? Okay, next. So, the statistical table na tinatawag natin had different parts. Unang-una is the table heading, shows the table number and the title. May mga ibang researches ang ginagamit nila is table 1.A, table 1.B, ganun. So, nakadepende yon sa statement of the problems ninyo. Kung dun sa statement of the problem number 1 ninyo, you have 4 choices. Pwedeng table 1.A, 1.B, 1.C, 1.D. Pero may mga researches din kasi na table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ang ginagamit nila. May mga researches din na ginagamit nila table 3 kung na-under siya ng chapter 3. May mga ganon. So, please follow your respective format ng schools ninyo kasi iba-ibang schools, iba-ibang format. Okay? So, there also has the table number to give the table identity, the table title, which explains briefly what is being presented, and of course, the body or the quantitative informations na nakalap ninyo, na nasummarize ninyo. So, this is a example of a tabular method. Example of tabular method. So, table 1 is the title. Kasi ginamit natin is the frequency distribution. Okay, so frequency distribution of the ages of the teenage mother in blank hospital, or they did not compute for the interval na tinatawag natin. Whether 5-point interval, 3 points, depende sa kung paano nila mako-compute. So, giving you that example, para sa akin, mali, pero siguro sa part nila, kaya inalaw yan, it's because there are several considerations din siguro na gusto nilang ipakita talaga yung ages 13, ages 14, etc. So, sa atin, we will be adopting the interval na tinatawag. Okay? Next. Okay. So, ano ba talaga ang frequency distribution? Actually, ang frequency distribution na ginagamit sa researches is ginagamit siya to arrange all the data gathered by categories, by percentages, by ranking, plus their corresponding frequencies and class marks and midpoints. Okay, so usually, ang frequency distribution, pagdating sa researches, ipinapakita niya dyan yung kung asan yung class marks, asan yung midpoints. Pinapakita niya dyan kung anong degree or anong extent or anong pinakamas mataas na percentages na nakuha natin, whether you are looking at the ages of the respondents, the gender of the respondents or the sex of the respondents, educational attainment, civil status, etc. Okay, so itong frequency distribution na to, hindi lang ito ginagamit for you to determine kung ilang percent ng population ninyo or ilang percent ng respondents ninyo are ages ganito and ganyan. Usually din, itong frequency distribution is ginagamit ito para ma-identify natin who among your students or who among the students had the lowest grades and the highest grades, or the lowest scores and the highest scores. Okay, so punta na tayo kung paano natin i-compute. But before we go to how to compute or how to apply frequency distribution is, gusto ko ipakita muna sa inyo itong terms. Yan. Yung mga definition of terms, kasi usually as we go along, mamimit nyo yung mga different letters na yan, like R, the K, the CB, the X, the I, the RF, or the class frequency. Okay? So, pag sinabi nating range, it is the difference between the highest score and the lowest scores. Okay? So, sa researches, usually, pag halimbawa hindi ka naman nag-deal with the scores. Halimbawa, you are dealing with the age. Like, for example, sinabi natin kanina, which is 18 to 75 or 18 to 79, 80, etc. Kung ano yung pinaka score mo doon. For example, 18. Tapos, ang pinaka-range mo is hanggang 79 ka lang. So, yun. So, yun yung range na tinatawag natin. Or the highest score is the 79 and the lowest score na tinatawag din is the 18. Okay? Class interval or the grouping of category defined by the lower limit and the upper limit. Yung K na yan yung ina-identify natin na in between mga numbers natin. Kaya, kung maalala nyo kanina, yung example natin is, ang nilagay niya, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, dito yung class interval na yon, halimbawa, i-group nyo siya as to 3. So, kung ano yung na-compute ninyo mamaya, na intervals nila, doon nyo makikita, halimbawa, ang na-compute nyo is 3. So, ang interval is 13, 14, 15. So, 13 to 15. Ganun siya, okay? Class boundaries are subtracting the 0.5 to the lower limit and adding 0.5 to the upper limit. Ito yung class boundaries nila. Ito yung instead of magiging 51, ano yung pinaka-boundary nila para masabi mo na 51 na siya. Parang ganon. Okay? Mamaya papakita natin yan. Next is the class marks or the X. It is the middle value or the midpoint of the class interval. Okay? I is the difference between the upper and the lower boundary of the class interval, and relative frequencies are the percentage distribution in every class interval. Pag sinabi natin class interval, yun yung parang range. Usually, ginagamit kasi nilang word range eh. Pero, that is class interval. 51 to 55. Minsan, it ranges from 51 to 55. Yung naririnig natin minsan. Pero, ang tawag doon is sa class interval. So, yun yung, ito naman is the relative frequency, wherein these are the percentage distribution in every class interval. And ginagamit natin yung word din na class frequencies, which is, it refers to the number of the observations. Which is, ito usually ang nagagamit din when it comes to the research. Okay? So, those are the terms na kailangan nating tandaan, guys, ha? So here an example in order for us to apply how to construct a frequency distribution. As you can see guys, 50 yan na estudyante. Okay? So 50 students having their own respective scores. Okay, dito, ang makikita natin dito, yung mga scores ng every student. Like for example, student number 1, may score siyang 51, student number 2, 56, etc. So, kung titignan nyo dyan, ang pinaka-lowest natin is the 51. Okay, siya yung pinaka-lowest. Ano ang pinaka-highest? Tignan nga natin. Okay, ang nakikita, ayun, 90 is the highest. Okay, so, tandaan nyo yun guys ha, makikita natin yan mamaya if we are going to apply the formula of the frequency distribution. Okay? So, ito na. These are the steps in constructing a frequency distribution. First, you have to find the range. Okay? The form R, makita nyo, naalala nyo kanina, yung ating definition of terms, the range is equals to highest score minus the lowest score. Okay, ano yung highest score natin? It's the 90. And lowest score is 51. Okay? So, for the class interval or N, use the following formula. Yung K na yan, guys, given to anak ha? 1 plus 3.3 log N dun sa inyong scientific calculator. Okay? Next, pakitandaan, guys, that the ideal class interval should be 5 to 15. Mind you, guys, that kung ang inyong respondents or ang inyong observed scores or etc. values, pag lower than 50 ang inyong respondents, research subjects, observation, etc., ang inyong interval should be less than 8. Ibig sabihin, 8 kategorya lang yan. 8 groups lang yan. Groups. Okay? So, kung ang inyong respondents are 50 and above or your research subjects or scores 50 and above, then the suggested number should be 8 or higher than 8. Yung inyong grupo, yung pagkakagrupo-grupo. Okay? So, tandaan nyo yun guys, i-apply natin yan later on. Okay? Please note that the few numbers of class interval will result to crowded data. Too many numbers naman will spread out the data too much. Gaya na nangyari kanina na isa-isa lang yung kanyang nilagay. Okay? Third is, you have to compute for the class size. Class size is the I, using the following formula. Range divided by the class interval. K, di ba? Class interval. Next is, using the lowest score as lower limit, add to it the obtain higher limit of the desired class interval. So, paano yon? Ito pa yung mga ibang instructions natin. Okay? So, the lower limit of the second interval will be obtained by adding the class size to the lower limit of the first interval and adding to the result to obtain the higher limit of the second interval. So, i-add mo lang siya sa baba, i-add mo lang siya pag pataas, and ma-minus ka naman ng isa pag pababa. Okay? So, you have to repeat that until sa kung ilang interval ang nilagay mo. Okay? So, paano ma'am yung pinaka-solution niya? So, ito yon. So, these are just the steps, yung mga to. So, ito siya kung paano nyo i-apply. Matatandaan nyo kanina that our range, highest score is 90 and the lowest score is 51. Tama? So, 90 minus 51 is, the range natin is 39. And, kung matatandaan din ninyo na sinabi ko kaninang note that you have to have at less than 8 intervals kung ang respondents ninyo, observations ninyo, research subjects ninyo are lower than 50. And you can only have 8 intervals pataas if your scores or observations are higher than 50. Okay? So, dito part, ginamit natin is 8. Why? Kasi, the scores are higher than 50, right? Okay, so range natin, ito nakuha natin, 39 by deducting the highest score and the lowest score divided by K. Ito yung desired interval. So, it's really up to you kung 9 or 8. So, dito nag-stick siya sa 8. So, it's up to you kung 9, Pero usually kasi may mga butal-butal masyado, kaya it's very safe to have the 8. Okay, so 39 is the range divided by k. It's the desired interval, which is 8. The I, the class size natin, I, is equals to 4.875. Rounding it off, 5. So, ibig sabihin, yung class interval natin, yung pagitan, yung tinatawag din nila minsan na range, is 5. So, paano ilalagay yon? Ito. Yan. So, ito yung frequency distribution of the 50 respondents. So, 51, kung maalala nyo yung kanina, na the lower limit and the upper limit, na pag pataas, pa-upper siya, you have to add 1. Dito, add 1. Diba? Yun. So, ito yung ating class interval. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. So, makikita nyo, 5 yung kanilang gap. Yung usually nga, tinatawag nilang range or the interval. 5 yung interval natin. Why? Kasi nga, yun yung na-compute nating I or the class size. Okay? So, ito siya. So, 5 yan. Equal yan. So, pansinin nyo rin siya. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is our desired interval. Why? Kasi nga, ang ating observations are higher than 50. Okay? So, itong F na to, ito yung mga nakuha nating sagot or ito yung mga nakita nating bilang. Diba? Or ito yung mga frequencies na na-observe natin during the survey. Ito yung numbers na na-observe natin during the time na ginagather natin kung ilan sa kanila ang nakakuha ng score na 51 to 55. So, meaning to say, 4 sa kanila ang may scores na 51 to 55. Okay? Okay. X is the, the midpoint, diba? Ito yung average ng upper limit and the lower limit. Ito yung class boundary kanina, diba? Sabi natin, you have to add 0.5 if upper and deduct 0.5 para sa lower limit for you to get the class boundary. Okay? So, tingnan nyo siya, ang kanyang respondents are 50 or ang kanyang observations or students or research subjects are 50. So, ang decided ng researcher na yon is to have an 8 interval. Okay. So, ganyan siya when it comes to score. Now, applicable ba siya when it comes to the profile? Just in case na nag-survey ka, including the ages, the civil status, etc. Of course. Okay? So, let's apply now on the example natin. Okay? So, ito muna. Sabi ko kanina that your presentation of the data, you can have it in a tabular form or in a graph form or vertical or horizontal form, line graph, pie graph, pictograph, or bar graph kagaya nito. So, depende yan kung i-accept siya ng school ninyo na magkaroon kayo ng graph. Pero sa iba-ibang school, usually ang ginagamit nila is only the tabular form kasi mayroon tayong magkakaroon din siya ng discussion later on, which is gagawa rin ako ng video about it, kung paano mag-interpret ng statistical table. Ito kasi is just about the statistical table, applying those statistics or statistical formula. Okay, so makikita natin dyan na under 51 to 55, they have 4 respondents or 4 of them had or got a scores of 51 to 55. 3 of them got the scores of ito yon. So yun yung class interval. Okay, what is frequency and percentage of the survey form result from what if we use the frequency and the percentage of the survey form or the survey result from the Google survey form? Okay, so actually, it's a very good help or it's a very big help na hindi na natin kailangan mag-tabulate. Kasi dun sa Google form, meron siyang tinatawag na responses or summary. Makikita natin doon kung ilan yung nag-response, ilang percentage. Yun nga lang, siya ginawa na niya in a tabular form, in a bar graph or in a pie graph. Ginawa na siyang pie graph. Pero in our study, in my case, gusto ko when it comes to your study is in a tabular form. Paano pag instructors ninyo or the format ng school ninyo hindi na-accept ang pie graph or any graph, aside from yung tabular form. So, yun ang gagawin natin. Okay? So, let's begin with looking at the responses naman na nanggaling sa Google Form. Okay. So, ito yun. I asked one of my student na isend sa akin ang survey of their research kasi I allowed them or I instructed them to use the Google Docs or the Google Form para makagather ng responses since nakaka-experience tayo ng pandemic, so I don't want them to get the flu or the virus because of this. So, I instructed all of them to utilize the online platform or the Google Docs. So, dito, makikita niyo yung choices niya when it comes to age. Tama? Okay, so hindi ko alam if gumamit siya ng mga intervals, pero mapapansin natin that ang kanyang ages is above 50. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, meron siya dapat na 8 interval. Okay, so i-compute natin yan ha, para tulungan natin sila na baguhin ang kanilang survey form since nag-uumpisa pa lang naman sila. In order for us to at least apply kung paano mag-compute ng class interval. So, 18 and 55. So, based from the lecture kanina, paano natin siya i-compute? So, let's go sa Word para mai-apply natin siya. Okay, nasa Word na tayo. I copied the formula para mas maintindihan natin. Range. Highest minus the lowest. We have, ang pinaka-highest na nakita ko is 55. Minus 18. Tama? 55 minus 18. So, that is 37. So, since ang ano natin is highest, more than 50, so ang desired natin will be 8. Hindi tayo pwedeng maging 3. Hindi tayo pwedeng maglagay ng interval na 2, 3. So, ang desired interval natin is 8. Pwedeng 9, pero masyado na marami ang 9 since 55 lang naman lumampas sa. So, for me, safe na lang yung 8. Okay, so we have 37, the range, divided by K, which is the 8. Okay, so 37 divided by 8 is 4.625 or 5. 5. Okay? So, since 18, so 18 hanggang, since sabi niya 5, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So, dito, add 1. Sabi niya, di ba? 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Yun, 27. Okay, then 28, add 1. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, ayan. So, na-compute ko na siya. We have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 interval hanggang 55. Kung makikita nyo, kukunti lang yung difference na 53, 54, 55. Tatlo lang siya. It's because hanggang 55 lang kasi yung age range niya. But, still, lahat dapat yan. So, mula sa umpisa, mula sa pinakamababa, papuntang taas is ganyan siya. So, ito yung may tutulong natin sa kanila. And, tara, let's modify their survey form. Okay, andito na ulit tayo sa ating Google Form. So, since mali ito, babaguhin lang natin siya to edit natin. Yan, edit. So, age 18 to 22. Ayan, na-edit na natin siya. So, kailangan ba nating ulitin yung survey? Of course, kasi hindi natin siya ma-identify yung ages niya kasi kanina ang kanyang ranges is magkaiba-iba. Anyway, ginamit lang naman natin ito for us to have yung mga responses niya and magawa natin siya to frequency distribution naman. Okay, para makita natin yung as to ages, etc. niya. Okay, so dito part, kung mapapansin nyo, since binago natin yan, sabihin ko na lang sa mga estudyante, make sure guys that you have a valid interval para hindi tayo magkaroon ng problema. And we use 8 kasi ang kanyang age range is 55, 49. Pwedeng 3 lang yan. 5, basta hindi tataas ng 8. Okay? So, kung nagawa nyo na yan, na-edit nyo na siya, mga ganyan. Yung tinuro ko the last time, guys, ha, dun sa ating, tag nun, ating discussion about using the Google form or constructing your online survey form. Ito yung mga yon. So, pag ito, after nyan, makaka-generate na kayo ng inyong yung URL or the link na ipapasa nyo na lang sa mga respondents ninyo para masagutan nila. And, pakitandaan na, paki-remind sa kanila that hindi nila masasagot ito pag wala sila, hindi sila naka-log on sa kanilang Gmail account. Okay? So, paano natin malalaman yung mga responses? So, makikita nyo dito, meron siyang 10. Ibig sabihin, may 10 na nag-response sa kanyang survey. Okay? So, i-click natin. Okay, yan. Yun. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, pie graph. Okay? Nakalagay dyan, kung i-click nyo siya, meron siyang 7, meron siyang 2, meron siyang 1. Kasi yung kanina, ang choices niya is 18 to 35, tama? 55 and above, and 35 to 55. Which is, sabi nga natin, kailangan nilang i-resend ulit kasi nga, ang choices na natin is magkaiba. Okay? Now, since hindi pa masyadong okay ito na part, and babaguhin naman nila, let's take the gender as our example and the civil status as well para makabuo tayo ng tables na magagamit natin sa ating chapter 4 for the MLA format and chapter 3 for the APA or the APA format. Okay? So, makikita natin dyan, hindi naman kasi allowed sa amin ang magkaroon ng graph or kung hindi allowed sa inyo ang magkaroon or gamitin ng graph, ang gagawin nyo na lang is kunin nyo ito. Yan. 6 and 4. 10 kasi yung respondents niya. Okay? So, punta tayo sa Excel. Yan. Excel. Okay? So, buray natin. Anong nandun kanina? 6 and 4. So, male and female. So, yon. Male and female ba? Male, tama, and female, makikita naman natin. So, ito, hindi nyo na siya i-compute kasi nakalagay na siya dyan. Pero I want to discuss kung paano mag-compute. Paano pag hindi siya naglagay ng ganyan. And you only have the result lang. So, ito gagawin ninyo. Yan, 6 female. Then, i-total nyo siya, guys. Yun, o. Punta tayo dun sa AutoSum para malaman nyo kung ilan yung respondents nyo. Okay, 10 ang nag-respond. So, 6, sabi natin, equal sign, 6 divided by 10. Kasi ang ating formula for frequency is frequency or F divided by N times 100. Times 100. Yan. Given yung 100, constant yung 100. So, yan, 60%. Okay? Yan. 4 divided by 10. Minsan kasi kaya hindi ko siya ginaganyan, yung dapat ganyan na lang siya, na ilalagay doon. Kasi, ang problema ko doon, paano pag copy-paste mo, mali na siya. Okay? So, at least mano-mano lang naman dito. That is equals to 100. Okay? So, doon yun na lang siya lalagyan ng percentage doon sa table natin. Okay? So, ito yung male, frequency, etc. Or, para lagyan nyo ng sign, pwede nyo lagyan ng sign yan. Equal sign 6 divided by yan. So, para hindi na kayo paulit-ulit, i-drag nyo lang ito. Yan. Oh, sorry. Ayan. Kaya hindi ko siya, yan o. Yun nga sabi ko kanina, kaya nilalagay ko na lang siya na 10. Minsan kasi nga, idadrag ko, dire-diretso siya sa baba. Pero minsan hindi rin siya pumapalya. Yan, 10. Okay? So, ma'am, paano siya gawing percentage? Pindutin mo lang ito. Yan. So, magiging percent na siya. Ayan, i-total mo na lang siya para percent na rin siya. Okay? So, para mas mabilis. Minsan, ginagamit ko tong Excel para mas madali, pero kina-counter check ko siya using my calculator kasi minsan nira-round off na lang niya bigla-bigla. And minsan, lalo na dun sa average weighted mean, mali-mali ang kanyang nilalabas na result. Okay, so makikita natin yan, ikopya lang natin para gumawa tayo ng table. Okay, table naman. Gagawin natin siyang table. Ito yung kanina. Enter tayo. Yan. Sabi niya, sa statistical table natin, i-paste ko lang dito para mayroon tayong basis. Sabi niya kanina, dapat mayroon tayong title heading. Diba? Table number. Sabi niya, tama? Balikan natin. Ito. Parts. Yan. Table heading, table number, table title, and the body. Okay? So, let's go back. Meron tayong table heading. Table 1. Sabi ko nga kanina, may mga ibang researches na ang gusto nila. Table 1, table 2, table 3. So, nakadepende yan dapat sa statement of the problem ninyo. Pero, ang format nakadepende sa school ninyo. So, dito, ang gagamitin lang natin is table 1. Okay? Table 1. Okay? So, masyadong maluwag yung space niya. Papalitan ko siya. Alisin ko yung points niya. Okay? So, Control B para mag-bold. Tapos, frequency distribution of the ages of the respondents. Okay? N 10. Bakit malaking N? Ibig sabihin ng malaking N overall. Pero pag ang ginamit mo dyan is maliit na N, yun lang yung respondent dun sa particular group na yon. Okay? So, since ang buong example natin is ang kanyang overall population is 10, so N na malaki divided by is equals to 10. Okay? So, meron na tayong heading, may number na tayo, may table title na tayo. Ang ngayon na lang next natin is the body. Yan, body. Ito yung body natin. Okay, so mag-insert kayo guys ng table. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Magbura na lang kayo later on. So ito, pwedeng nasa gilid, pwedeng nasa gitna, nakadepende sa format nyo. Okay, dito is the age bracket. No, hindi pala tayo ages. Example natin, sorry. Kasi may problema sila doon. So, gender. Gender of the respondent. So, gender. Gender. So, we have male and female. Next is the word na frequency. Frequency sa baba, lagyan nyo ng F. Ito yung frequency, ito yung mga number of naging respondents ninyo ha. Kung ilan ang nag-response sa particular category or classifications. Okay? Next is percentage. Lagyan nyo rin siya sa baba ng percentage. Okay? Next is rank. Rank. Sa mga ibang researches, hindi sila nagpapalagay ng rank, pero pwede nyo rin siyang lagyan ng rank. Okay? So, gitna lang natin. Control E. Yan. Okay? Ito naman, igigitna ko na rin. Control E. Okay? So, dito, Control E, gitna, total. Alisin ko yung extra. Okay, yan. Male. Ilan yung male natin kanina? 6, 4. Yan. Copy mo lang siya. Hilain mo. Lagay mo lang dyan. Yan. Control B. Okay. Surely, ganito ang ginagawa ko. So, yan. Para wala masyadong spaces. Tapos, babaguhin ko lang yung kanyang font to Arial 12. So, depende yung font sa, sa format ng school nyo, guys. Alin dyan ang pinakamarami? Male or female? So, obviously, it's male. So, rank 1. Female is the second to the rank. Okay, ganyan lang siya. So, that's it, guys. Ganyan lang gagawin ninyo when it comes to profiling. Kung yung profile niya, paano namin malalaman, ma'am, kung ang gagamitin namin is frequency? Siyempre, makikita nyo dun sa questions nyo. Kung isa-isa lang naman yung tinanong ninyo, dyan, ganyan. Wala naman siyang rating scale, tama? So, frequency ang gagamitin nyo dyan. Yan. Frequency ang mga yan. Kasi wala siyang rating scale. Unlike ganito, na pag sinagot nila ng 4, may rating scale siya. Okay? May rating scales. Unlike dun sa mga nauna na isa-isa nyo lang siyang tinanong. So, isa-isa yung sagot nila in every questions arises. Okay? So, if every questions arise, mayroon silang isang sagot. For example, occupation, businessman. Oh, yun. So, makikita nyo dun sa responses nila, sa summary. Okay? So, yan. Kaya siya na ganyan kasi talaga isa lang yung mga choices. They will be answering one answer to specific question as to civil status, occupation, gender, age, etc. Kaya kahit hindi man dyan ang tanong, basta isa-isa lang siya. Or kung grade ang pinag-usapan gaya nung kanina, or scores ang pinag-usapan gaya ng example natin kanina. Okay, so that's it for frequency distribution, guys. I hope you learned something and makatulong ako para matapos ninyo ang statistical table of your research. Pag natapos na natin to lahat, next natin is the average weighted mean, which entails the responses ng my Likert scales or my extent or my degree of seriousness, etc. Okay? So, that's it. Guys, thank you for listening and I hope I help you with the statistical table of your studies. So, abangan ninyo guys ang aking average weighted mean na computations para mabuo nyo na yung chapter 4 ninyo na statistical table. Then later on, i-discuss din natin kung paano gumawa or mag-interpret ng mga result of your studies. Okay? So, thank you and good